Johnson & Johnson appears to be looking for a way to deal with the nearly 30,000 pending lawsuits over claims that its baby powder and other talc-based products cause cancer. According to reports, the plan is to offload liabilities from the lawsuits into a newly created business that would then seek protection by filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So would this work, and how would it impact the thousands of victims involved? Joining us now to go further in depth on this is a host of America's Lawyer himself, Mike Papantonio. Mike, it's great to have you on this show today. Now, our first question is, why would Johnson & Johnson be considering a plan like this, and how is it legal?
Well, it's a new way of doing business. I mean, you take a boardroom of sociopaths that have killed thousands of people, okay? Literally killed thousands of people recklessly, knowing for 5 decades that what they were doing would result in thousands of deaths. Then you take a Department of Justice who has no courage to prosecute anybody that's dressed up in a 3-piece suit and lives on Wall Street. And then you take a media who won't tell the story because the advertising money coming from Johnson & Johnson is so big. Then you take regulators who have no courage whatsoever, who in fact go to work with a company like Johnson & Johnson after they leave the FDA. You take all of these moving parts, and then you take a company, Johnson & Johnson, who is worth $1/2 trillion, almost $500 million, and billion dollars, $500 billion. And then you have a judge in New York who's been appointed as a judgeship, or a judge in Texas who's been appointed to a judgeship because of politics. And it's a judge who's never done anything for consumers in their lives. All they've done is worked for corporations. So you take all those moving parts, and then you take a Texas law that has been written to stomp on consumers. You would expect it out of Texas. This is where it started. It's called the Texas two-step. It's called divisive merger, created in Texas for thugs, for sociopathic thugs just like Johnson & Johnson, so they can kill people, never go to jail, never have any bad publicity about it. In the end, they can keep their $500 billion, and the CEO makes a lot of money, and it's business as usual. And then the next company says, hey, Johnson & Johnson got away with that. Let's do it too. So the question, how can they do it? That's how they can do it. It's all those moving parts that allows a sociopathic leadership like Johnson & Johnson to kill these people and then seek bankruptcy protection for it.
And Mike, that's exactly right, because it's something we've talked about on this show over and over again. How do they do it? Because we've allowed them to do it, because the laws have allowed them to do it, and they got the money to get around them. So, Mike, how would this plan to put a separate company through bankruptcy impact the actual lawsuits that are being filed? And more importantly, how is it affecting the claimants who were the ones who were actually hurt during this?
Well, listen, let me begin with the claimants. For half a century, scientific testing found that the asbestos talc that was used in this product had the ability to cause ovarian cancer. There is a horrible, horrible death. When you meet these clients that are end of life and you see the impact that it has on the daughter and the husband and the children, and you're watching your mother die of this death, and you know that it's being caused by Johnson & Johnson powder. Why? Because they're finding asbestos in the uterus. They're finding asbestos is what caused the cancer itself. And the problem we have here is we have become so accustomed to corporate America conducting business like this that today they're teaching it in MBA school. Watch what Johnson & Johnson does here. If they get away with it, and they very well might, because they're always going to find a corporate thug judge who says, yeah, business as usual, business trumps the American consumer. So what they do, they come up with this company. It's a nothing company. They create this nothing company. They say in the company that you company are responsible for all of our liability. And we're going to give you a little bit of money, but it's not going to be enough to cover all this liability, and you're going to claim bankruptcy, and we're going to go our way after killing thousands of people without ever being prosecuted. And you know what? Everybody goes home happy except the victims of Johnson & Johnson's baby powder.
You know, it truly is a tragic system all around. Is there any signs of this changing anytime? I mean, we're talking about 30,000 victims just with this case, let alone we have all of the victims of the opioid epidemic that's been going on in this country. I mean, is there any sign that Johnson & Johnson is going to learn any lesson from any of this?
I can't talk about the settlement. As you know, our law firm is engaged in the negotiation of the entire opioid. You know, we brought the first opioid case up in Ohio. We started this litigation, so I can't talk about what's going on there. But I can tell you, as far as Johnson & Johnson, as far as companies like Johnson & Johnson, we'll never see a change in the way they think until we throw a few of them in prison. Yeah. Until we start treating them like the people that they are. It's reckless disregard for human life. And you know what? That's the same thing as manslaughter in any other place. And that's why companies like this are actually prosecuted in other countries. We simply don't have the courage to do it.
Yeah, great insight as always. Mike Papantonio of America's Lawyer, thank you so much for your time and analysis.
Thank you.